So we're both huge fans of the Mark Maron WTF podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And part of the beauty of what Mark does is that he seems to admit very dark things about himself and even his jealousies toward other comics or actors, resentments, addictions, etc. Do you think a good comic should go into therapy in order to know sort of the things about themselves that are sort of the blind spots a lot of people don't want to admit?
I personally think that their stand-up is their therapy. That, stand-ups basically rant. They talk about what's making them crazy. And it's a very nice way to get at those things. That, very few stand-ups are saying things like, oh, I just had my kitchen remodeled. It's so beautiful now. I just like to stand there now. The double doors for the refrigerator. Oh, my goodness. That's not going to happen. And you say, the frickin' contractor, do you know? So, I've spoken to a lot of them that say it really is. That's how I deal with it.
So let's suppose therapy isn't working for them. Some people, it works for, they enjoy it, they have a very great relationship with their therapist, and others, do you think they need that audience validation? And that could be another way to work through things?
You're asking a bunch of very difficult questions. The therapy part, of course, considering that I do moonlight as a clinical psychologist, of course, I think everybody should be in therapy. But for stand-ups, being a stand-up has two different facets. There's the performance part of it, and there's the writing part of it. And it's really the writing part that you're getting into. And what I can do is tell you a parallel story of a friend of mine who sat in that very chair and was writing a screenplay and said, I'm just stuck. I've written myself into a corner I can't seem to get out of. And I sat down with him and I said, let's play a little bit and you be your main character and let's do a psych history. And I took a very detailed psych history. And by the time he left, he said, no matter what happens to this character, I know how he'll react. No matter what situation he's into, I know how he'll view it. And found it enormously helpful.
Now you also had you said a one-time stint at the Comedy Store that you were.
Yeah. And
that was your
by the
one.
way, I agree. Everyone should be in therapy, and it's always the people who don't go, who need to go, who make life miserable for the rest of us. That's my non-professional opinion. I'm a complete believer, and I think therapy is really helpful for creative people. And I think it's a superstition to believe that if you talk about your demons, that you will. I think it's a defense mechanism about having to deal with them, because I've never met a creative person who went to therapy and was harmed by it, unless they had a charlatan or like somebody who, like the guy, the famous Beach Boys story about Brian Wilson having this guy Gene Landry who kind of took over his life. That's a little different. That can happen, I guess, but I don't think it's that common. You would have to say if it's common.
No, very uncommon.
Yeah. But
I just like to take over the financial part of their lives.
I'm gonna just pretend you didn't say that.
Say it louder.
I had, again, my longtime writing partner who came out of stand-up and sketch comedy, talked me into doing it one night at an open mic at the Comedy Store, and I froze. I just we planned it out, we wrote it out, it was great, and I kept saying to her all the way through, I'm not going to be able to, you'll be fine, I'll feed you the lines, you're funny. I said, I'm great in a living room, and I'm okay on the page, but I can't, I got up there, and it was that cliched thing of looking out and seeing a sea of faces, and it was like the flop sweat scene from broadcast news, you know, when Albert Brooks is just sweating and sweating and sweating and can't stop sweating. That was me, and I just never did it again. But my daughter does it, which is really interesting, and she's very good. In fact, what's today? Wednesday, Saturday night, she's going to the Comedy Store and doing the third or fourth time she's done it. But she's had some training, and she loves performing. And the thing is like, I stopped performing in 11th grade when I went up in my lines in a play and hit my forehead, and the drama teacher said, "Do it again tomorrow night," and that was the last time. I'm not an actor. My wife's an actress, a wonderful actress, and it's about as close as I get to acting.